I think as an actor, I think Chadwick would want to have it recast. It's not only important for little black boys and black men to see superheroes, but it's also important for other cultures to see
To
us
see black
as superheroes and to see
superheroes.
blacks. It's a lot of story left in T'Challa. There's a lot of stories left. I don't think that Chadwick would want. He would want it to continue on. That's what I think. But
I do believe they made a mistake. I think it is a mistake. I think this character is too important, not Black Panther, but T'Challa. I think T'Challa is too important of a character for them to make this move. I said I feel the right thing to do, both from a business point of view, from a story point of view, for the importance of the character point of view. I thought the right thing to do and the smart thing to do was to recast, have another actor pick up that baton for Chadwick and carry on.
Yeah, salute to my South Carolina brethren, Chadwick Boseman. Rest in peace to him. But why is this a conversation? Of course you recast it. You're just going to get rid of T'Challa in the Marvel Universe? That makes zero sense.
So
they probably thought they were going to get so much backlash, which they would have, but that's just foolish. People get recasted in superhero movies all the time. Like, why would you just get rid of the character T'Challa forever? That makes no logical sense.
Unfortunately, what happened with Chadwick Boseman. I personally would like to see it live on because I'm a big super hero comic book nerd, and they live on. That's what is supposed to happen, and I know how things are in the comic book as well.
You have to recast, and it hurts. He did a great job in the role, but T'Challa as a character, and I know you can argue that since Black Panther has been different people throughout the history of the fictional character's biography, T'Challa, on the other hand, has been around since the 60s.
Yep.
And so many different, storylines with the Avengers, with the Fantastic Four, with his own stories. And T'Challa himself, that's just like saying, like, we're not going to recast Peter Parker. Or we're not going to recast Steve Rogers or Bruce Wayne or any other characters. But I feel like, the character has to be recast.
Has to. Absolutely. 100.
But that role is so symbolically important that we have to recast it. They can say he came from the multiverse. They can bring it in at the end. Look, I've had 7 Supermen, 5 Batmen, and like 4 Spider-Man in my lifetime. Not to mention 2 Jokers since Heath Ledger died. There's no reason that a black character of this symbolic importance can't be recast like some others. So I hope that is a part of this reboot. And I know some people say that this is terrible, it's disrespectful. I don't know how Chadwick Boseman feels. I don't know how his family feels, but I know that character needs to live beyond the man who played it.
Like, I can wait 5 years for Black Panther 2. That ain't gonna hurt.
According to this guy, the Dark Millennial, he says, "Why are people eager to have a replacement immediately?"
I'm not eager for it either.
You guys know what a straw man argument is? It's like that's what you're doing here. We're not eager for one immediately
or a recast. Just wait, push it all back, push back the recast, push back filming of the movie. It all should have been pushed back.
I mean, if they just didn't want to put him in this film, nobody's saying in recast that he had to be in this film. If you felt he didn't have to be in this film, there's plethora of reasons.
Just don't make a permanent decision.
Exactly. That you would put out there to say where he is. Wakanda has a whole galactic empire. He could be in space.
The character itself, the story itself, the ideal itself, it's got to be more than one guy. Like we got to be able to move on and keep these stories going. We do, because there have been several Batmans. There have been several Spider-Mans. They recast the Joker after the part was cemented by Heath Ledger, right? No one will ever be T'Challa like Chadwick Boseman was. No one will. They won't. He, to me, is my T'Challa. The stories have to go on. You want T'Challa for your kids, and you want T'Challa for their kids. you want T'Challa to have to watch Shuri be Black Panther. You know, it's just an important character, and I don't think we're. I understand how everybody feels. I feel the same way, but I don't think we're doing the right thing by erasing that character.
I feel like so. I don't think it does a disservice to the memory of Chadwick Boseman and his performance as T'Challa to replace him. See, because I think, you know, and especially in movies, you see a lot of times where whether it's a contract dispute or a personal feud, or somebody just decides, I don't want to play the role anymore, that they move on from that character, and then somebody else has to, quote unquote, fill the shoes. I only say that to say this, man, is I think we're sophisticated enough, Chadwick Boseman and MCU fans, to not look at whoever assumes the role of T'Challa and unfairly judge him side by side with the late great Chadwick Boseman. That's number one. Number two, I trust the MCU. I trust Ryan Coogler as a director and a creative. I trust the cast. We talk about sports a lot, Michael. The team around you. I trust the team around whoever this person is to uplift this individual and to move this franchise forward without retiring this character in its entirety because of Chadwick Boseman's tragic passing. I trust this entire team to protect this character and therefore protect the King of Wakanda and what this character is supposed to represent moving forward.
This man was dedicating his life, his energy in the midst of his sickness and illness to give us that character. He wanted us to see the character and not him. You don't think you could be a little uncomfortable for a little while to see someone else pick up what he started? It's just a little uncomfort. We always get over these things. Most of us do. I'm not saying it wouldn't be jarring. I'm not saying it wouldn't be a little different, but different isn't bad. Another actor is not bad. No one is going to come in and be like, how can I act like Chadwick Boseman? No actor will do that. Did Don Cheadle do that? Is Don Cheadle going into to Iron Man talking about like, hey, man, can I be the next Iron Man? No, he's not trying to act like Terrence Howard. Don Cheadle's acting like Don Cheadle. He's still playing the same character. Is Mark Ruffalo trying to act like Ed Norton? No. He's playing Banner the way he wants to play him. So this idea that somebody's going to come in and try and play like Chadwick and it's going to be weird, that's not what's going to happen. It's not how any of that happens. They're going to play the role. They're going to bring their own flavor to the role. Just because you switch up the variety does not mean it's going to be bad.
What's up, everybody? What's happening, Marvel fans, movie fans alike? Welcome back to the channel. I am Dial, and this is another edition of my live. And today, time has come. We're finally going to be talking about it. The direct sequel to the original, the final installment of Phase 4, the highly anticipated Black Panther Wakanda Forever. Thank you guys for watching. If this is the first time you're watching me, you picked a great video to click on. But this is a channel talking about all things in the world of movies, shows, and everything in the nerdy geek culture. So if you enjoy my content, you like to hear my takes on things, I would love it if you guys would hit that thumbs up, hit the like button, and subscribe to the channel. And please hit the bell if you want to be notified on future videos I'll be doing. But yeah, man, it's time to get into this. We have a lot to discuss. I don't want to waste a lot of time. But before we get into this, let's address the chat real quick before we go into this. We got Daryl in the chat. What's up, man? Glad you could make it. And you have your boy Mirage. What's up? What's up? How you doing? Glad you can come in. But yeah, as I said, I don't want to waste any more time because we have a lot to get into. As always, if you haven't seen the title of this video, this is going to be a spoiler-filled discussion. We're going to talk about every detail about this movie, as if you saw the film this past weekend. So, if you have not seen Black Panther Wakanda Forever, I strongly encourage you to go watch the movie, come back and listen to the replay if you don't want to know anything. Yeah, you have been warned. Okay. So, where do I begin with this? So, the first Black Panther, the original. Well, before we even talk about the first one, I guess we talk about just overall how my love for the character overall. I do love the character of Black Panther from the comics. I think he's great. I will admit, I didn't really read him like that not until the MCU started to, come into play. I mean, I was familiar with Black Panther, but I haven't read all of his comics. But like after hearing that he was having his inclusion in the MCU, I read up more on his stuff. And yeah, he ended up being one of my favorite Marvel characters, and overall one of my favorite comic book characters. Period. Um, Now, when it comes to Chadwick Boseman, love Chadwick Boseman as an actor. I think he's absolutely great. Before he steps into the role of Black Panther, he's known for other roles like in 42 and Get On Up, and many, many movies he's been in. He's absolutely fantastic. And when he was first casted as T'Challa in Black Panther, I was very, very excited. Very excited. Remember the announcement at, I think it was either D23 or Comic-Con, when he came up on stage and that they were going to announce that Black Panther was going to make his first appearance in Captain America Civil War. I was very excited about that. Now, when it came to Captain America Civil War, the movie itself, you guys know my thoughts on Civil War. I'm not going to get into a rant about it, but I was not the biggest fan of Civil War. But what I thought was the best part of that movie, definitely the highlight of that film overall, was Chadwick Boseman's portrayal as Black Panther. I thought he was absolutely fantastic in the role. He was perfect. I loved his performance, loved his suit, loved how he loved his action sequences overall. I thought he was absolutely great, and it made me so excited to see him in his standalone movie. And then it came to a standalone movie. I absolutely love his standalone movie, the original Black Panther. I thought it was great. It's probably it. I think now it's my favorite film in the MCU. I know beforehand I did say that that Spider-Man No Way Home and Doctor Strange and the Multiverse of Madness was my favorites. But after subsequent viewing of both those movies, I started to notice more problems with them. I still enjoy those movies, but like I feel like Black Panther now has gone back to the top spot for me as my favorite Marvel movie. I watched it again recently before I saw Wakanda Forever, and I still love the film. I think it's absolutely great. Literally, the only issue I probably have with it is the CGI could have been better, but I thought the story was great, the characters were great, the action was great, just the themes were awesome, and it was just great to see a black male lead as a superhero and taken seriously, because before that point we had stuff like Blank Man and Meteor Man, and you know, so it was just nice to see, you know, representation as far as that for black male leads, for them to be like a superhero and be a king as well, because like overall when it comes to black movies, we, you know, we had to you know, go through the stereotypes of, you know, like, you know, when it comes to the Tyler Perry movies or other comedies like that, or you know, when it comes to horror films, we've been dealing with stereotypes with that overall. But you know, it was just nice to see, you know, the black community being seen in this light, you know, as royalty. Yes, you know, this very fruitful nation, you know, and also having like one of the most powerful superheroes, you know, in the Marvel universe being represented by a black male lead. It was fantastic. It did a lot of things for the community, and you know, I'm very happy about that. I'm very proud for that to be, you know, for this film, this franchise to exist. Now, of course, now we have to talk about, unfortunately, the tragic passing of Chadwick Boseman in 2020. I believe that's when he passed away. Um, it was a very tragic day. It really was. Um, I remember, you know, the first time, you know, hearing his passing, and it really hit me, you know. And I didn't expect it to hit me as much as it did, because like, you know, even though I loved him in the role as T'Challa, and I loved him in other films outside the MCU, and you know, and also we didn't get a whole lot of time with him as Black Panther yet, but I just felt like his performance overall and what he did for, you know, the community as a whole when it comes to representation and acting, like it was just hard. It was hard to cope with the fact that we lost such a great talent so soon. And it was nuts because like he kept that a secret for so long. Like I believe he knew about, you know, his sickness since probably not too long after Civil War. Probably during the filming of Black Panther, I think, when he knew that, you know, his time was limited, and he didn't tell anybody about it because he was so dedicated to the role of T'Challa, you know, because he wanted everyone to see the character and, you know, not himself. You know, he didn't want people to just see him as the actor. He wanted people to see the character, so he didn't want anybody to worry about his condition. And I completely respect that. You know, I really do. He's a 1 in a million guy, man. He has such a loving soul. From what I've heard from interviews and stuff like that, and people that knew him, his family, he seemed like a not only a fantastic actor but a amazing human being, and it was very tragic with his passing. So because of that, Marvel, you know, Kevin Feige and them, they decided, since he passed away, they decided to have the decision of completely writing off the character of T'Challa. And you know, if you couldn't tell from my very long-winded intro with you know, all the supporters, I'm sorry that was very long-winded, but I had to make a point that I thought it was a mistake for them to completely write off his character. I know, you know, it's hard for a lot of people, you know, to cope with his loss, and it would be hard right now to see someone fill in his shoes so soon. But I just thought it was a mistake for them to completely write off his character because of how important the character is, you know. And his story was not done. It clearly wasn't. It felt like a premature move, in my opinion. Um, and you know, I can kind of understand. I wouldn't want them to recast very instantly either. I would want time to breathe. If it were me, I wouldn't. I would have pushed back the movie a couple years, to be honest. I really wish that they could have pushed this movie off so we could have time to have people have the time to grieve for his loss, and then as time will go on, we'll be okay with somebody moving on to another role. I wish they could have figured out a way to do it, but Black Panther unfortunately is in the Marvel machine, and they have a schedule to keep up with, and they have like 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 2 to 4 years of slates they have to keep up with. So like if this movie gets affected, then it causes a domino effect with the other films, which yeah, it's a gift and a curse. I really wish, it feels like the cinematic universe overall is just becoming too interconnected to the fact where it's like all the movies are just getting affected. If one domino piece falls, a bunch of others fall as well. So it's like it's just bittersweet. So I guess it kind of seemed like Marvel had to put this out as soon as it did. But I would have pushed it back, to be honest, but they didn't decide to do that. They decided to just completely write off the character so they didn't have to deal with somebody else coming in as the role this quickly. And I just thought it was a mistake, because T'Challa is such an important character to the Black Panther franchise and the MCU, you know. It's not just because it's not, and I know for a lot of people they say that like it's not just about him as it's not about him as the character, it's about the mantle of Black Panther. Like anybody could take on the mantle, and they could take the place of what T'Challa was doing, and it's not the same. It's more than just the mantle. It's the character. It's his impact on all the other characters, not only in his franchise but the other Marvel characters. It like to have somebody else just come in and just take the mantle of Black Panther, it just won't feel the same. Like, and for people that know T'Challa from the comics and know of all of his stories, there's just so much wasted opportunities, you know, that they just wasted that there's so many stories that they could have done with T'Challa with the other Marvel characters, and it's like I just wish they didn't do that, but they did decide to do that, because Ryan Coogler, who directed the original Black Panther and the rest of the cast, they were very close with Chadwick, so I try to give them the benefit of the doubt. I really am, because like they knew Chadwick. It was like they lost a friend, and I couldn't imagine being in Ryan Coogler's position. If I was in his shoes, I probably would feel a similar way. But at the same time, I have to think about what's best for the franchise. I have to think about what's best for just the Black community as a whole. So it's just like I wish you know I wish he just didn't decide to do that. But I knew that he was going to do his very best to he's going to make the best film possible. Like I knew he was going to try his best. That's really all I can ask for, I guess. But yeah, going into this, they announced that Namor, the Submariner, was going to be in this movie, and I was looking forward to that because I was interested in seeing Namor in live action. Um, but there was going to be some very significant changes with this character that they were going to make him Hispanic, and as far as his Atlantis, they weren't going to call his city Atlantis. Well, of course, because they don't want to be compared too much with Aquaman in DC. So they decided to completely revamp his city and his culture, and they're now called Talocan. And it has a bunch of Mayan and Aztec culture influences in that. And I didn't know how to feel about that personally, but I was like, okay, let's see where it goes. The trailers overall looked really good. Um, and of course, you had that tease with this mysterious figure in another Black Panther uniform, which Since this is a sport discussion, I guess we'll just say it. Like, I'm sure a lot of people knew that was going to be Shuri. And once again, I didn't know how to feel about that with Shuri taking on the role as Black Panther. Now I'm aware that Shuri does take the mantle in the comics. I understand that, but just I'm okay with her eventually becoming a Black Panther in the future. But the problem is that the groundwork wasn't laid for her to become Black Panther. This stuff felt forced. It didn't feel natural for her to become Black Panther yet, So, I mean, I knew this was going to happen. Honestly, that was probably the best case scenario for them to do this since they wrote off the character of T'Challa. But like, I knew going in I wasn't going to fully love it, but I was willing to see how well it was going to be executed overall. But yeah, so I did see this twice. So I definitely gave this movie a good enough chance, just the first time, just, watching it just to enjoy it, with the emotions, and then second time just to actually analyze the story and the characters and stuff like that. So I had a good amount of time to sit on this movie and contemplate my thoughts. Overall, it's a good movie. It's a good movie. From a filmmaking standpoint, from a direction standpoint, from a performance standpoint, I didn't think this was bad. I think it was very well made, but I feel conflicted. I feel conflicted. Um, Definitely don't think this is on the same level as the first movie, and I guess that was something I expected because you didn't have your main character, and after watching what they did, I still felt like it was a mistake for them to write off T'Challa. I really gave the movie a chance. I was willing to see what Ryan Coogler was going to do with the story, and it just didn't. It didn't live up to the expectations for me. Um, I thought this movie was all over the place. I thought that there was too much going on with the story. And I just felt T'Challa's absence throughout the entire film. And maybe that was their intention for us to feel his presence, but like, I don't know. Like, sometimes it worked and a lot of times it didn't. And there were creative choices in the movie that felt too personal when it comes to Chadwick Boseman's passing. Felt like it was unsettlingly personal, like some of the creative choices in this movie, and I didn't feel comfortable watching that, to be honest. Was I expecting this to be a fun movie? Was I expecting this to be like like a kick-ass film from start to finish? No, I didn't expect it to be like fun and lighthearted. One of the things I do appreciate about this movie is that it's getting back to the more serious tone that I've been missing from the MCU up until this point, because like coming off of stuff like She-Hulk and Thor: Love and Thunder and stuff like that, I was just hoping that we can get back to having a more serious tone with the Marvel films. So that's something that I appreciate with this movie, that we went back to being a little bit more of a serious movie. But like, I don't know, there's just some decisions in this movie that felt cold. I don't know how to feel. I really don't. Like, I don't think this is a bad movie, but at the same time, I'm just like, there's just a lot of things that they did in this movie that I don't agree with. And I just felt like all of this could have been avoided if they just figured out a way to keep T'Challa's character alive, Like, there could have been so many other ways for them to work around this situation without doing what they did. So yeah, that's overall how I feel about it. Let me look at the chat real quick before we start getting into details. TW McKay, glad you can come in. What's up, man? And we got Zeno in the chat. How you doing? He says, I haven't seen this dumb movie and have no intention to because they killed T'Challa. I completely understand that. I understand that. I know a good amount of people that said that they weren't going to see this movie because they killed off T'Challa, including a couple of my family members talking to them. So I completely understand. I completely understand why people don't want to see it. I it's just I did feel like it was premature. Daryl says, I have a theory. I think T'Challa Jr. will be the one who will meet Storm later on post Phase 6 going into Phase 7 in the Mutant Saga. Yeah, we'll definitely talk about T'Challa Jr. We definitely will talk about that. Said Blade was the first Black Marvel hero we had in live action. Yes, that's very true. And I do love Blade. I do love the first two original movies with Wesley Snipes. I'm not a fan of the third one, but like even with Blade, like he didn't leave as big of an impact as he should have. Like it felt like when the first two movies came out, like they were good. They were very very good, but like it didn't hit with the mainstream culture as much as it should have, and he was more of an anti-hero anyway. So like it didn't have the cultural impact that Black Panther did. But I do agree that like you can put Blade in the conversation as far as like male leads in superhero movies that like act he did like start the change for black male heroes in mainstream media for sure. Chadwick died. T'Challa did not. For the MCU to just delete Black Panther's comic legacy is blasphemous. I agree. I agree. And finally, Big Bro, welcome. He said Wakanda Forever is mediocre compared to the first Black Panther, which is a way better film. And I agree. But okay, so let's get into details. So I guess I'll start with the cinematography and the action set pieces and stuff like that from a the directions standpoint here. Um, I do think this is a better directed film than the first movie. I think the cinematography is better. I do think that the action sequences were handled better. Um, and yeah, and then the soundtrack as well, I thought was really, really good. Probably on the same level as the first Black Panther, almost on the same level because I did like the soundtrack for the first one just a little bit more, but I did think the soundtrack for the second movie was really good. But yeah, from a filmmaking standpoint, Ryan Coogler did do his thing with this movie. It was a very well shot movie. It was probably one of the better looking movies of Phase 4 overall. Um, but yeah, so definitely it was consistent on that note. Yes, as I said, the action was very, really good. I thought it was an improvement from the first film. Um, and yeah, I guess all I'd say about the direction. So I guess we could talk about the characters real quick. Well, starting with who do I want to start with? We could start with Angela Bassett as Queen Ramonda. She was fantastic in this movie. Absolutely great. Angela Bassett did her thing. Um, there's a lot of people that say that she should be nominated for an Oscar for Best Supporting Actress for this movie, and I definitely see that. Um, definitely felt this raw performance from her that I haven't seen from her in a long time. And I guess this could be reflected with the rest of the characters in this movie. It did feel like the actors were like honing in that emotion that they had for Chadwick's passing. It felt like they brought that raw emotion to their performances, and it made it feel more. It just made it feel more tangible as it came to the just the emotional scenes and stuff like that. But I think Angela Bassett definitely had probably the best performance in this movie. Her and Letitia Wright and Namor I think those three were definitely the standouts performance wise. But yeah, Angela Bassett was definitely great. It was nice to see her, as Queen of Wakanda taking charge and just I one of my favorite scenes was in the opening where she was talking with the other, the nations with that meeting and talking about how they were trying to take um Wakanda's resources and stuff like that. I love that entire scene. Just seeing how much of a presence she was. It was actually nice to see that from Ramonda because even though she was really good in the first film, but she didn't really have a lot of scenes to actually show her, just show her presence, and it was very nice to see it in this film. Um, and then talking about Letitia Wright as Shuri, she was also great in this movie. She was asked to do a lot. She was asked to do a lot in this film, and I thought she handled it the best she could. As I said, there were a couple of creative decisions with her that I wasn't fully agreeing with, but as far as her performance, her giving as much gravitas to the material as possible, I thought she was great. She also gave some really raw, emotion in this movie. That I did really feel for her and Ramonda and the rest of the people of Wakanda, like when they're mourning for T'Challa's loss. I definitely felt it with her. Um, but yeah, she was great. She was very solid as the lead as well. She definitely surprised me with that. Just coming off of the first Black Panther and the Avengers movies and stuff like that. It was just it was nice to see her be elevated a little bit more as a leading role. And I thought she handled it very well. Okoye was also great in this movie. Not too much to say about her. She was great. She was badass. She just carrying on her great performance that she had in the first movie and the Avengers films. She was absolutely great. And she had some really badass fighting scenes as well. One of my favorite action set pieces was obviously on the bridge when she was fighting the other Talokans. That was awesome, and then she had that face off with Atuma. But yeah, she was very really great. Um, and then we have Lupita Nyong'o as Nakia. I thought she was really good in the movie too, but she wasn't in it as much as she was in the first movie. But yeah, I thought she was really good. Once again, there were some creative choices with her that I didn't agree with. We'll talk about later, but overall, I thought she was great. And I will say on a personal note, I think Lupita Nyong'o is slowly starting to become my new female crush now. She just gets beautifuler and beautifuler every time I see her. Is that even a word? Beautifuler? No. She gets more and more beautiful every time I see her. Like, man, she's just I love her. I love Letitia. I love Lupita Nyong'o. I love her so much. Yeah, I don't even care that she's almost 40 years old. She does not age, man. Drop dead gorgeous. But yeah, I still really love her as a character. Um, and once again, feeling the grief of losing T'Challa. Uh, I feel like all of them really did a good job holding in that emotion as well. Um, and then we have Winston Duke is in Baku. I really liked him as well. I wish he was in it more, but the times that he was in it, for the most part, I thought he was really good. I thought he was a great, definitely stand out. I just wish we had more of him. I really wish we did. Um, Now let's talk about the nation of Talokan. The nation of Talokan. Let's talk about um Namor. I really liked Namor in this movie. I thought he was a really good villain. Um, I'm trying to look up the actor's name to not. Hold on. Hold on 1 second. Trying to look up the. I don't even know why I don't have this open already, but okay. So I think his name is Tanaka Muerto, something like that. Yep, Tanaka Huerta. I thought he was really, really good. I haven't seen him in other films before. It's the first time I'm seeing him, and I thought he was really good. For his first like big blockbuster movie, playing like a very important character in the Marvel universe. I thought he did really well. And when it came to like the Mayan and Aztec culture stuff that they included in his character, they changed it to Talocan. I thought for the most part it worked. There was a couple of things that was distracting about it still, but like for the most part, I still felt like, I still thought he did a really good version of Namor. And there were certain things about his portrayal that I kind of liked better than the comic version, to be honest. I do like Namor from the comics, but I'm gonna be very honest with you. The original Namor, I kind of find him petty and annoying sometimes, and like his motivations aren't always valid. He makes very he just when he switches from being a hero to an antagonist in the comics, like there's just some stuff that he does that I feel like just a little too petty for him. So like I felt like they still had his petty nature in this movie, but like I felt like he was a little bit more sympathetic with this version, I guess. A little bit more likable, I would say. He has a little bit more charm with this version. But yeah, as far as him as an anti-hero, as a presence, he was very, very good. They established that he could possibly be as powerful as the Hulk, which that's crazy. But like saying you're as powerful as the Hulk, what does that even mean nowadays? Because of how they treated the Hulk in the MCU now. If you're talking about Hulk like up until Age of Ultron, then okay, sure. But if we're counting Professor Hulk and stuff in that, like that don't mean that much to me. But that's interesting that they said that he could be on the same level as the Hulk. And also they established that he's a mutant. I was actually glad about that. Because I didn't know that if they were going to name drop him as a mutant, but like he even said it himself that he was a mutant, and yeah, I was happy about that. I was very happy about that. So just planting more seeds with the X-Men when we eventually get them in the MCU. So that was really good. And then as far as Namora and Atuma, I thought they were also really good. Um, I Part of me wishes that we could have got a little bit more development with them, but they do establish that they're both the the what am I trying to say? The supporting characters for Namor, the two main supporting characters for Namor. But I thought they were very, really good. Especially when it came to their action sequences, I thought they were very, very menacing. The whole nation of Talocan I thought was very, very menacing. Um and I did end up liking their look with the Mayan and the Aztec costuming that they have here. The costuming in this movie I thought was very, very good. Very, very good. But yeah, so going back to that fight scene on the bridge between uh Okoye and Atuma, I thought was one of my favorite set pieces in the film. Definitely like that fight scene. I heard it took like months to choreograph that, and it definitely shows. Like they did their thing. Atuma was definitely like an intimidating presence in this film. I loved it. Like he was a big dude, and the statue was really good. So like I really liked Namora. I really liked. Gave me some similar vibes with Feyora with Man of Steel and stuff like that. So she definitely was an intimidating presence as well. The overall Talocan nation I really liked in this movie. I wish we had more time to develop them because like for them to establish that they're on the same level as Wakanda. I thought all that was really cool. I just wish they had more time to like build them up. As far as like just seeing their world and how their technology works, how they fight, and like their culture. We did get some. Not to say that like they didn't dive into it at all, but like I could have gotten more of that. It just goes back to the fact that I think they put a little too much in this film. to be honest. Um, like there could have been more time to just develop Talocan as a nation since they are the antagonists of Wakanda in this movie, just to show them more as an equal. But yeah, I just personally wish we had more time with that. Maybe they could have had like a standalone movie or something like that. I don't know how the rights are with that because apparently the rights to Namor I think, is it still at Universal? I'm not fully sure. Like if they wanted to do a Namor movie down the line, they possibly could, but I'm not sure how the right stuff with Universal goes down. That's probably another reason why they had to change Namor stuff as much as they did. But yeah, I really like them in this movie. And then let's talk about Riri Williams as Ironheart. I really liked her. I didn't expect to like her because coming off of the comics, I didn't care for her that much at all. I actually didn't like her. I'll be honest. I like I didn't even bother reading more than one issue of her because like the first issue I read of her, I just didn't care for her as a character at all. So hearing that she was going to be in this movie, I didn't have a lot of enthusiasm about it. But I'm surprised that I actually ended up liking what they did with her in this movie. She was definitely a more likable character. And she actually was important to the plot, at least for the first half of the movie. But I did like, for the most part, how they utilized her. So I guess this is one of the few instances where I think that the movie version was better than the comics for Ironheart. I definitely ended up liking her a lot, and it actually kind of had me looking forward to what she would do in her standalone show on Disney Plus. I hope it's good because you guys know how I feel about the Disney Plus shows up until this point. The quality has not been great outside of Miss Marvel and What If, in my opinion. She-Hulk's kind of a guilty pleasure for me, but yeah, it's definitely not like I wouldn't say it's a good show. But I'm hoping by the time her Ironheart show comes out that the quality of the shows will get better. I hope. Well, only time will tell. But and then I guess Martin Freeman's character. I thought I had his picture up. Hold on, let me find it real quick. I thought I uploaded this picture already, but I did not. But yeah, Martin Freeman's character from the first movie, and we saw him in Civil War. He was fine in this, I guess. I guess it was nice to see him again because he did play a role in the first film, but I felt like his role wasn't as big in this. But I guess he was integral to help Wakanda with letting them know about whatever the government is doing here, whatever America's tactics were. So I guess he was useful in that aspect. And then you had uh her from Falcon and Winter Soldier. Like what? Why was she here? I mean, I guess world building wise, they could establish that she was the main person running the CIA. So it's like I guess you don't need to see Falcon and Winter Soldier to understand her role in this movie. But me just seeing her from Falcon and Winter Soldier and I didn't care for her in that, I'm like, why are you here? And then it turns out that her and Martin Freeman's character, they were married and they were divorced and they have a bunch of the silly banter in the movie. I mean, it wasn't awful, but I could care less about that, to be honest. Um, but yeah, so that stuff, I was like, eh. But yeah, overall, for the most part, I thought the characters were very, really good. Um, I wouldn't say there was a bad performance in this movie, in my opinion. But anyway, let's look at the chat real quick. Said you aren't the first person I heard that from today. Really? Okay. He said the cast is all around fantastic. Definitely. 40 isn't old. Yeah, it's not old. I mean, no, it's not old, but like if you compare it to me, I'm 27, so it's like I know that'll never happen. I don't even know if I'll ever meet Lupita Nyong'o in my lifetime, but like as far as I'll take a cougar. I will definitely take a cougar. Um it's your boy Mirage says this movie would have been better if they did recast T'Challa, although T'Challa Jr. has me really interested nevertheless. Oh, hold on. We will talk about that. We will definitely talk about T'Challa Jr. Hold on there. Unless they do time jumps, I'll probably be dead by the time Junior grow. Oh man, y'all just want to talk about T'Challa Jr. so much, don't you? Um, Atuma and Nomura were underutilized, but were decent for the most part. In my opinion, Atuma should have killed Ramonda and have him be more of a villain. You know what? I don't hate that idea, actually. It could give them more development for sure. Excuse me. Excuse me. Let me get some water real quick. But yeah, I don't hate that idea actually. I think it would give Atuma more development, and maybe you could do something like that with Nomura or something like that. Definitely give them more development. I also feel like the pacing was decent. Some characters and subplots were underutilized, while characters like Valentina and Ross had unnecessary scenes and more Telkanian and Dormilaje characters. Oh yeah, that's right. They did have a couple more Dormilaje characters they tried to include in this. And yeah, they were definitely underutilized. I don't know why we're adding more characters with the Dormilaje. I mean, I'm not against that, but like as I said, like there's so many important things that need to do in this movie. I don't think it was necessary for them to add more Dormilaje characters right now. Maybe they could have saved that for like a spin-off or something like that. But that's one of my issues with this movie. Because like because this is not something they did in the first movie. What I appreciated with the first film was that you didn't need to watch any other movies to understand or appreciate the story in the first movie. Like for the most part, it was a standalone film, and it wasn't trying to set up to other things. But Wakanda Forever, it looks like they're setting up. It feels like they're trying to set up to other things that we don't need to. So with Ironheart, even though I really liked Ironheart, even though I did like her, it felt like they put her in here to set up for her Ironheart series. Excuse me. It felt like they just put Riri in here so they could set up Ironheart for Disney Plus. And then the Dora Milaje. It seems like they're adding more characters with the Dora Milaje because they probably want to build up to that possible Wakanda Disney Plus series they want to do with that, maybe. And then Namor, even though he is the main antagonist of the movie, it feels like they put him in here so he could be a more integral character with the other Marvel films going forward. And then you had the stuff with what's her name? I forgot already. Somebody said it in the chat. Hold on. What was her name? Valentina. Yeah, you had the stuff with Valentina coming in here because we know that she's going to set up the Thunderbolts later on in phase 5 or whatever, so like they put her in here. Like this like I said, it's a gift and curse that this movie is in the Marvel universe right now, because like you still have to have those contractually obligated characters and stuff to set up to other films. And like we're so far in the MCU right now where it feels like everything has to be interconnected, and it's like if you miss one thing, you might not understand some details about other movies and shows going forward. So it feels like Wakanda Forever is suffering from that a little bit. Like there's too much going on. They didn't need to put all the stuff in here. They should have focused on what the the passing of Wakanda, the passing of T'Challa, the rise of Talokan, and the stuff with the government trying to get vibranium and stuff like that. So like they should have those should have been the main focuses of the movie. But anyway, um to talk real quick about Ironheart's suit. I did like her prototype suit that she had at first, and then I know a lot of people are giving her final suit shit. I actually liked her final suit. Like, I mean, sure, it looked like something out of an anime and or Power Rangers and stuff like that, but I thought it looked cool, at least in my opinion. I don't know why people are hating this suit so much. I actually really like it. And then, oh wait, and also speaking of stuff they were trying to set up for other things, like the Midnight Angel suits are in this as well, and I'm like, why? I mean, okay, so to be fair, this is stuff they had in the comics. Black Panther had Dora Milaje be in Midnight Angel armor for just for extra, extra suits for extra people for them to have, their own weaponry and stuff like that, just to have more tactical forces with their armies and stuff like that. So that is something from the comics, but like if it kind of felt like it was thrown in here too, like it could have been a little bit more development with that. Like we do know Shuri was working on working on the Midnight Angel suits, but did I don't know. It's like they didn't have much. It just felt like they threw that in there. You know what I'm waiting for to see? Like, why can't we give M'Baku the man ape suit? Like I really want them to do. Really want them to turn him into man ape. I'm just waiting for that to happen. Like everyone's getting a suit now, but M'Baku still ain't getting nothing. I'm like, maybe in the third movie. I don't know. Let's see how that goes. But and then yeah, as far as suits, I guess we can talk about um the final suit, that Shuri wears at the end. Um I actually like this suit. This is another one that people were giving shit about. Like some people didn't like how the suit looks. I actually do really like how the suit looks, and I personally like the dots that they have on the helmet and stuff like that, because it's that cause Shuri had those dots painted on her in the first movie and stuff like that when she went into battle. So I actually like the aesthetics, and I like the gold on the armor as well. But yeah, so like as I said, like there's some really good set pieces. I did talk about the bridge scene, and I like the invasion that Talokan has on Wakanda. That was probably the best. Well, it's between that and the bridge scene. Those were the best set pieces, I guess, in my opinion. But like I thought that was really good. The finale I thought could have been better. It wasn't bad. I thought it was I thought it was still was good, but it wasn't as great as the first two big set pieces in my opinion. Um, Probably like the only highlight of that was Shuri against Namor, which I thought was handled pretty well. But as far as like the Wakandans fighting the Talokans on the ship, I don't know. I wish they could have like made that a more elaborate set piece. I did understand why they tried to fight the Talokans on a ship. Like you didn't have aircraft, like you could, or the ship could have turned into an aircraft, because you're pretty much vulnerable in the middle of the ocean. That's Talokan's domain. So it's like I don't understand like why they were up in the middle of the ocean in the ship, and they couldn't escape quickly with aircrafts and stuff like that. So I thought that was kind of a flaw with that. But anyway, I did overall think that the set piece was still good, but I just didn't think it was good as the first two set pieces, like with the bridge and the invasion of Wakanda from the Talcons. But yeah, as I said, Namor. Now one thing I was worried about with Namor was how they were going to handle the wings on his ankles. Because like if done incorrectly, it would have came off really really stupid. But of course, you can't bet against Ryan Coogler. As far as his directing, like he made his wings look really cool in this movie. Like whenever he's up in the air and fighting off ships and stuff like that, and tossing them around with his bare hands, like they made Namor look like a badass in this. Definitely really liked that. Um, he definitely wasn't a force to be reckoned with. Definitely really liked him in this. And they did a decent explanation of why he wasn't blue, but the rest of the Telecans was because the Telecan people took this magical herb that turned them blue, to where like they can only breathe underwater and stuff like that, but like it cured their diseases and stuff like that. And so when the mother was pregnant with Namor before they took the herb, so that's why he didn't come out blue like everyone else. If he was already blue, if her mother was already blue before she got pregnant with him, then he probably would have ended up blue like everyone else. But since she took the herb late while she was already pregnant, then yeah, I guess that's why he came out regular with a regular shade. Um, and then yeah, obviously explained the pointy ears and the wings is because he was a mutant. So that was cool. That was cool. Any other positives that I liked? I mean, as I said, I like the political intrigue with the government trying to take the resources of Wakanda. I thought that was really good. I wish they went into that more. Um, I'm glad that they're at least addressing, the ramifications of T'Challa's decision of making Wakanda public to the world with their resources. So, I'm glad that they addressed that at the very least. But yeah, is that the extent of my positives? Yeah, yeah. I think it is. Okay, actually, no. I'm sorry. I didn't address how they handled T'Challa's funeral and stuff like that. Okay, so what I liked about that was in the beginning. Yeah, I did like how they handled the funeral. I thought it was handled pretty well. Um, and what I like the tributes to Chadwick in the beginning and at the end. Um, the whole ritual with the funeral was beautifully shot. And what I liked with the moment of silence when the Marvel logo came up, all you heard was like the wind and stuff like that. Like it was like silent, and I actually liked that. And then the Marvel logo, it was they changed the Marvel logo to Marvel intro, and it had like a bunch of Chadwick Boseman's footage there, and it was purple, and I actually really liked that. I did really like that. I think they did that intro for the first Black Panther on Disney Plus, so I really liked that Chadwick Boseman Marvel intro. That was nice. Um, and I guess yeah, another positive before I go into negatives. I guess I will say like the whole thing of how Shuri was trying to handle T'Challa's death, I think for the most part was handled well, I guess, with her trying to just cope with his loss. And you had the whole thing of Ramonda trying to have her burn T'Challa's clothing, and just sitting by the fire and just having the memories of him, like I guess cleanse your spirit so she can move on and stuff like that. Um, I did. It was fascinating just seeing her struggle throughout the movie, And then at the very end, when she decides to do that, and once again you just had the moment of silence with the wind blowing, and then you saw the footage of Chadwick Boseman as T'Challa. I thought all that was handled pretty well. I really liked that. Okay, so now that I got out of the way, I guess it's time to just talk about my issues, my gripes with this movie overall. So as I said before, I felt Chadwick's. Well, more important, I felt T'Challa's absence in this movie, and overall, I didn't think it was a good thing. It was hard for me to focus a lot of the times when watching this film. Like, I just couldn't help to feel like this movie, the decisions made in this film was forced. It was. I just what really irked me with them handling T'Challa's death was that they also had T'Challa die from an unknown disease. And I didn't like that. I didn't like that. It felt too much like the real thing. It felt too personal when they with them doing that, because we know that they're trying to reflect Chadwick's passing, and I just felt they made it too personal. It was very uncomfortable with that. And on top of them having um T'Challa die that way, it makes Wakanda not look incompetent, because like Wakanda has all these resources, you know, like they they have the most advanced technology on the planet. They have some of the best medicine on the planet. They are owning the most powerful mineral in the Marvel universe, one of the most powerful minerals in the Marvel universe, with vibranium. You know, they have all these resources, you know, but they couldn't find a way to cure T'Challa's illness. I mean, I don't want to bring up the comics, because the comics is the comics and the movies are the movies. Like, they never specify that they were able to do this in the movies, but like in the comics, they were able to cure cancer. You know, that's how advanced Wakanda was. So it just feels incompetent of Wakanda that Shuri wasn't able to find a way to cure his illness. And they never clarified what the illness was. I'm sure they could make up whatever mumble jumble they want to, with that this illness was uncurable for Wakanda, which I guess, but like it just doesn't make Wakanda look as good, because they weren't able to stop it. Like, I wish they found a different way to address how T'Challa died, Like, he could have died in battle or something like that. Or I don't know. I don't know. It just didn't feel right with how they did that, in my opinion. But excuse me, guys, sorry. But it just goes back to, I just wish they didn't kill off the character. I've been saying this, like, before the movie came out. I've been saying that an easier way for them to, to figure out the T'Challa stuff without completely killing him off, if they had to have a movie come out now, I personally felt like they should have had this movie take place during the 5-year snap. When Thanos snapped away half of existence, this movie, honestly, it should have took place during that 5 years. And I know there's gonna be people out there that say like it couldn't work, because they established that Shuri got snapped during the 5 years. And like, okay, so with that, I'm like, they first of all they never fully clarified if she got snapped. Um, like they never fully clarified that. It was implied slightly, but not fully. And even if that's the case that Shuri got snapped, it doesn't matter. I don't care. I would have retconned that, because her getting snapped doesn't fully impact the Avengers movies. Whether she got snapped or not, it doesn't fully impact what happens with Infinity War and Endgame. So I would have just retconned it where she never got snapped. You know, I really don't think it would have been that big of a deal. And if you want to talk about retconning in Marvel, they've already retconned so many things in the MCU already. So it's like, what's one more retcon? And it's like I feel like people would understand enough that they had to make those type of choices for the betterment of the franchise. Like I think people would have been fine with that if she was still alive. But like I honestly think they should have had this movie take place during the 5 year snap. And like they could have found a way for them, to keep T'Challa alive without having to use him. And like after watching this movie, I feel that even more now because they have this plot point where the government is trying to go after Wakanda's resources because they believe that Wakanda is vulnerable because T'Challa died. They don't have a king, they don't have a Black Panther, so they're instantly after their resources now. So I'm seeing this and I'm like, so if this happened because T'Challa died, so you're telling me during the 5 years they didn't try that again? They didn't try that before? Like you had 5 years without a king, without a Black Panther, and nothing happened. It was just really strange to me that they never addressed what happened during those 5 years. They never addressed what happened to Wakanda. Like how did they adapt? How did the council in Wakanda? How did they react to T'Challa being dusted off and there's no king? Like what are the politics with that? How did they adapt in those 5 years without their king? And that they're at their most vulnerable. Why did they never address that? Like it's just more apparent now because like as I said, the government is after resources after they know that T'Challa died from a sickness and there's no Black Panther. So if they're doing it here, they definitely tried that in the 5 years. And then you're also telling me that Talocan and Namor didn't do anything in those 5 years either? Like Namor didn't freak out that half of his people was gone too? They never went to Wakanda and tried to figure out what was going on? Or them trying to take over Wakanda as well because they're vulnerable, they don't have a king? Like none of that stuff was addressed in the 5 years. It's just really it just baffles me they never addressed what happened in those 5 years. And so that's a perfect time for them to just make a story there. How did Wakanda react with half the universe being dusted? Make a story around that, and you could still have Talocan and stuff like that, and you could still include Ironheart in there if they wanted to, but like that's the way they could have done it. And now, okay, so that's another thing for people that probably want to argue me. But then, how could they have Ironheart in the 5 year snap? They like Ironheart is there because Iron Man died, right? I mean, not necessarily. You don't need to have Iron Man dead for them to have another Iron person in the universe because there's already established that there's other people with suits when he was alive, and you're about to have an Armor Wars movie as well. So it's like you could have just had a student be influenced by Iron Man, and she decided to create her own suit. And then also keep in mind that during the 5 years, Tony Stark retired. Like he wasn't Iron Man in those 5 years. Nope. Like so he was busy raising her daughter, being with Pepper, So it's like there was no Iron Man in those 5 years either. So it's like I don't think it was out of the realm of a possibility that, you know, a student just so happened to be really smart as well, that she made her own suit as well. It's happened before. Other people made Iron Man suits in the universe as well. So like that's fine. But it just baffles my mind that Ryan Coogler and Kevin Feige never thought about that. You know, like I think that would have been fine for a sequel, and like we all would have been happy. I mean, I wouldn't say happy, but we all would have been somewhat satisfied. With the future of the Black Panther franchise if they just made the movie during the 5-year snap. Because now we're just like forcing all this stuff to happen in this movie. Um, Shuri's Black Panther. Like Letitia Wright did the very best with what she was given, so I don't blame it on her. And like I don't want to hear about the stupid controversy with Letitia Wright about the vaccine and shit, and I don't care about that. I really don't. Um, but and then the stuff with her getting injured and whatever. Like I really don't care about the controversy and stuff like that. But I just felt like it wasn't right for her to become Black Panther right now. You know. Now, I will say the way they handled it was better than I thought it was going to be, but it still didn't all the way feel right because the whole time she was driven by anger and rage. Like she never even believed in the tradition of being a Black Panther. She didn't care about the rituals and the super natural stuff and like the spiritual aspect of it. She was all about the science and the numbers and stuff like that. So it was strange for her to just pick up the mantle, all of a sudden. Now I know they were at an act of desperation that they needed the Black Panther at that moment to fend off Talokan. But like, it just goes back to, just all this, T'Challa's loss, it just is causing a domino effect of all this other stuff happening. Um so the biggest inconsistency with her being the Black Panther is that she doesn't know how to fight. She's not supposed to know how to fight. I mean, it's okay. She can train, but that's the problem. They never show her training to learn how to fight, you know? So when she's the Black Panther, and in that climactic battle, she's doing all these like acrobatic stuff and fighting moves and stuff like that. Like she's been doing this for years. I felt like that was a bit far fetched. And I know comic book logic, you have to suspend your disbelief to a certain extent, but these are rules that they established from the previous movies, from the first film and stuff like that. It's Civil War to an extent. Like they established that T'Challa had to train to be a good fighter. He had to train to be a Black Panther. Just because you take the heart shaped, just because you don't take the herb. Let me rephrase that. I'm sorry. Just because you take the herb doesn't mean that you know how to do all these crazy abilities and stuff like that. Doesn't automatically make you a good fighter and a good Black Panther. You have to train to do that stuff. So it was just odd that that Shuri was the one doing all these crazy fighting moves when we never see her train. Like the easiest thing they could have done is just had like one scene at least of her being trained by Okoye or something. Just one scene of just seeing her learning how to fight, just to establish that she knows that skill. We're just supposed to assume that she knows how to fight, or the herb gave her the abilities that she needed. Like, no. But just on a physiological standpoint, I just didn't like the motivation for her to become Black Panther just because out of an act of desperation or an act of revenge because Namor killed Ramonda in this movie. And I did them killing Ramonda. I'm just like, why? Why more death? Why more death in this? We already are dealing with the loss of T'Challa. Why did they feel the need to kill off Ramonda as well? I didn't like that. I really didn't like that. We didn't need that. Of course, it seemed like they felt like they needed that one more thing to push Shuri off the edge for her to just be driven by race the entire time. So I get what they were trying to do, but she was already at that place. She already was there. We didn't need Namor to kill her to just add that extra thing of motivation. We didn't need that. And so it's just like it I don't know, it just didn't feel right. When Shuri was telling M'Baku that I want Namor dead and you're gonna help me whether you like it or not. Like that just didn't feel right. It almost felt out of character for Shuri. Like I know she's angry, but like for her to say that and then other stuff she said, like if I think about T'Challa too long, I feel like I want to burn the world with everyone in it. I'm like, Jesus. Like and I don't know if it's like how much of that is the writing or the actor's personal emotions with that. But it's just something just didn't feel right when I heard Shuri say that. It just, as I said, this movie just felt too personal. It really did. And though I guess I will say with her acting that way, I kind of liked how Killmonger was a factor in this when she went to the ancestral plane and she saw Killmonger. At first I didn't like that at all. Like I thought that was a forced way for them to bring Killmonger into the movie, but watching it a second time and actually thinking about it, it kind of starts to make sense for me now because Shuri was driven by rage so much and she was once again she didn't believe in the ways of the Black Panther and the spiritual aspect of it. So she only did this because she wanted enough power to fight off against Namor, and that seemed to be a similar motivation that Killmonger had in the first movie. He was doing it for power. So I guess it would make sense that Shuri would see Killmonger in the ancestral plane that way. So on that aspect, I thought it was fine. But it's just the principle of the thing. I just didn't like it. It just shows how important T'Challa was, in this franchise because he was the person to ground everybody, you know? Like he would, you needed that noble way of thinking from T'Challa to just help, balance everyone's emotions and decision making and stuff like that. Like for the longest time, I hear that that people think that T'Challa was better in Civil War than he was in his own movie, and I disagree with that because I mean, yes, you had the badass fight scenes with T'Challa in Civil War. Like you saw the more aggressive nature of him, but like the reason why I loved T'Challa in his first movie, was because you had the noble way of thinking that he had, you know, with his character, because like you need that, you know, like you need he was trying to unify everybody, like kind of in a Martin Luther King type of way. He was trying to bring everybody together. And like if you didn't have that sense of warmth and like just humanitarian type of stuff from T'Challa, you know that it will be repeating the sins that his father T'Chaka and the previous kings before him, making the same decisions of them making these cold-hearted decisions, you know, that could possibly wage war between different countries and nations, against their own people. So not having T'Challa there, You're seeing everyone making these brash decisions and like causing these conflicts that didn't need to be there. You needed T'Challa there to balance everyone out, to bring everyone together, to have that unification. You need that balance. Of course you have to make those hard decisions, for your nation because you're king. Not saying it can't, not everything can be solved with the humanitarian mindset, but like you do need that balance. And T'Challa was that balance for everybody. And you're seeing how it's affecting everyone, especially Shuri. So that's another reason why they shouldn't have killed off the character. And I honestly think he would have handled the stuff with the government better. Not saying that Ramona didn't do that. Of course, you have to assert dominance that you're not just gonna mess with us. You're not gonna take advantage of us. Of course not. But I feel like if anyone should have addressed the stuff with the government, it's T'Challa because he's the one that started it. So he should be the one to finish that. And that's just my opinion about that. And speaking of, having that male representation, for the Black community, I didn't feel like there was enough of a balance. You know, like I don't want to make this about men versus women because that's not what that's not what it's about. I'm not here to rant about the matriarchy, patriarchy stuff like this, not or women power, SJW stuff. I'm not making it about that. But I'm going to be honest with you guys, like with how much the women characters were elevated in this movie, and then the male characters were like put to the side. It was very noticeable in this. It felt like the male characters were taking a back seat, and I didn't like that. I didn't. Not to say that I didn't like the female characters. I thought they were great, but I just wish that they had this much care with the male characters as well, because that's something that I loved about the first movie, that the male characters and the female characters had their equal amount of time to shine and the equal amount of development, and they both equally played a significant part in the story. That's how both genders will be elevated, because they complement each other. It's not about just you know it's not just you guys know I love my female characters. You know that I love my female characters when they're well written. Like I love me some female characters, but I don't want that to be in the detriment of us having male characters, because that's equally as important. We need those black male role models. It's great that the black girls, the black women, they have their representation too. I don't want to take that away from them either, but like I just wish there was more of a balance. And it's like this movie's not doing itself any favors with them doing that, because you already have people complaining that Marvel has become pro women, the MCU. You've seen all this stuff before, like, and it's not really a coincidence that all these female characters are like coming out of nowhere with Marvel. There's so many female characters that they're introducing in the MCU, and it feels like the male characters are not as prominent. So it's like they're not doing themselves any favors with that either. For people that are complaining that this movie does feel like it has a female agenda, a feminist agenda, like they're not doing a good job of defending themselves with that, because even I'm feeling like there's not enough. As I said, M'Baku was not in it enough. He was an integral part of the first movie, but he's not in this. He should have almost the same amount of screen time as Shuri and Okoye and Nakia. He should be as integral as them, but he doesn't feel that way. I was very disappointed with that. And then Martin Freeman, even though like I didn't need him in it, but like it would have been nice for him to elevate his stuff too, just to have a little bit more male representation, I guess. But like just to not show that he was a waste of time, like because like it felt like the male characters, other than Namor, didn't get their just due in this. They didn't. Hold on, let me look at this chat real quick. Oh, so this is going back to talking about Ironheart's suit. The Mark II Ironheart suit looked better on screen than in the trailer. I think that and the Mark I suit both needed more yellow in the suits. I also feel like we should have gotten Riri to mention Tony. Um, I don't think the suit needed yellow because I don't want them to. I don't want her to feel too much like an Iron Man copy. That's one of the things I liked about her suit was that it looked like its own design. So I didn't need yellow in that. Oh, the comics. I guess in the comics she had yellow, but like I think that would have been too much to have it be have it will remind me too much of Iron Man, to be honest. So I like that. I like the color scheme that he had there, but yeah, I do agree that maybe she should have talked about Tony a little bit, maybe. Well, actually, you know what? No, I don't need that. I really don't, because it already seemed like up until this point that everything was tied back to Tony. I mean, they did mention Stark Tech armor, so I thought that was enough. But if they want to talk about Tony being an influence to her, maybe she could talk about that in her standalone show, maybe. But yeah, thinking about it, I didn't really need that, to be honest. Um, okay, so to talk about Talocan, as I said, I felt like they were underdeveloped. I thought they were underdeveloped. There could have been more they could have done to flesh out their world. And I guess it was hard for them to do so because there were so many elements they put in this, with Ironheart and the Midnight Angels and the government stuff, and it's like I guess it was hard to juggle all of that. And like this movie's 2 hours and 40 minutes, and they still had an issue juggling everything. So I wish we had more time to develop them. You know, Probably the biggest disappointment with the Talcans, in my opinion, was their actual city underwater. That was very underwhelming to me. Um, it wasn't as visually interesting as Wakanda. Um, First of all, it was lit too dark. Like I couldn't really see the architecture very well. Like I know they wanted to try and make it look more realistic so it would look darker underwater, but like aesthetically it doesn't really do it any favors. And for them to have so much Mayan and Aztec culture with their nation, I was expecting that type of architecture with their city, and you don't really see that. Like they missed a big opportunity to have those monuments of the Aztec stuff and the Mayan stuff. I think it would have looked really cool if they leaned more into that, but it just looked like an underwater Zion from the Matrix that's very really badly lit. So I don't know. Yeah, it was a missed opportunity with the nation of Talocan. Once again, like they could have made it look like visually as interesting as Wakanda, since they are on the same level technology wise, and you know, with the weapons wise and all that other stuff, resources wise. I wish visually it was represented better. You know. Um, and then what else did I didn't like? Oh, okay. So the whole thing of Queen Ramonda firing Okoye, I thought that was a dumb decision. Even though that whole monologue that Ramonda gave to Okoye, um, probably the best scene that she has in the movie. That scene is probably the one scene that people will look at if they want to think about Oscar contention. Is that? But at the same time, I didn't like the creative choice that they made with her character for have her to fire Okoye, because Okoye is probably one of the best soldiers that they have there. So she can't afford to lose anybody else, you know? And like it wasn't her fault that she lost Shuri, you know? And she was instantly willing to go and rescue her. So like I just thought that was just another decision built on emotion that I just didn't like that. She didn't need to fire Okoye. And then she ends up joining them back again and helping them against Talocan anyway. So there was no point of her getting fired from Ramonda. I mean, I guess it was there to prove a point, but you didn't need to prove that point with her. You didn't. So like I didn't like that. Um as I said, the Midnight Angel stuff felt thrown in with the extra Dora Milaje character that they shoehorned in here. They didn't need the Midnight Angel's armor, but I guess they kind of did to have some sort of opposing force against the Telecans. But like as I said, I thought it was thrown in there. I thought the looks of the suit was fine. That's pretty comic accurate. I know this one gets shit as well, but like I thought it was a cool looking costume. I thought it was fine. And I don't think it undermines the Black Panther suit. I know that was a complaint that people had, but I didn't think so. Um, and then what else is there? What else is there? Um, oh, okay. So there's some inconsistencies with the abilities of the Talcans. So what I did like their singing that they do is like a mind control to people to make them like suicide dive into the water and die. That was really dark too. So I didn't expect for them to have something like that in this movie. So I did like that. Um I like like their fighting tactics with the spears. Oh, what I really liked was their water grenades. That was awesome. That was some really cool visual stuff with that. So I thought that was really cool. Um, what I thought was kind of inconsistent is like how they die, because like because they established that they can get killed by, well, I guess they some of them can get killed by bullets, but some of them can't. Or when Okoye fought them on the bridge and she stabbed them, but then it doesn't kill them. They get back up when they get stabbed. So I'm like, I don't know what the consistency is with how the Talcans can die. That was kind of inconsistent there, but I don't know. That was kind of weird there. And then um Namor's motivations, I can't help but felt like there was similar stuff with Killmonger. Like they were trying to have a mixture of Killmonger and Magneto with Namor, which I mean for the most part I get what they were doing, and it's like I think it worked most of the time, but like I feel like once again going back to Namor's petty decision making from the comics is coming back here. I wish he talked more about how much he didn't trust the surface world and the slavery that he saw when he was a kid, and how how they're polluting the oceans and stuff like that. I just wish we saw a little bit more of motivations from him of why he wants to get rid of the surface dwellers and stuff like that. I wish we just saw a little bit more of that. And then just like the whole motivations of like him trying to declare war against Talocan, I wish was a little bit more fleshed out, because like I felt like it started a little too easy. The one thing that annoys me in movies overall, when a giant conflict happens, it happens over the littlest, tiniest, pettiest reason. So the reason why he decides to go to Wakanda and flood it and kill Ramona and stuff like that was because Nakia rescues Shuri and Riri, and then she kills one of the Talcans, and that's what sets him off. Okay, so if that we're going by that mindset, then why did you send your people to hunt down Shuri earlier with the bridge sequence and stuff like that and other things? So you expected no casualties when facing the Wakandans then? So it's like I wish there was just a little bit more motivation with the hat, because it just felt a little too petty and a little too easy for that to be the setting off point for Namor to go and flood Wakanda. Maybe like if Nakia killed somebody that Namor really cared about personally, like if it was his wife or something like that, or maybe that would have been enough of a motivation to flood Wakanda, but like it was just another Talocan, just a random Talocan. So it's like I don't know why emotionally I should be invested in that, but I'm not. Um, but yeah, man, those are just like my main issues with the movie. Just a lot of things just felt really forced and contrived, and just a lot of things that they were juggling in this movie. Almost felt like there was too many cooks in the kitchen. But as I said, Ryan Coogler did his very best to direct all that stuff in the best way possible to make it as coherent as possible. But you couldn't get over the fact that stuff felt forced. But the only thing left to talk about is that mid-credit scene. I'm sure a lot of people are waiting for me to talk about this mid-credit scene. There's only one credit scene. There wasn't anything at the end, but the mid-credit scene, they established that Nakia had a kid with T'Challa, and that was the reason that she left to Haiti and did not attend T'Challa's funeral and stuff like that, because apparently before T'Challa died, he knew about the sickness beforehand, so we could assume that he knew about the disease, like probably around the time of Infinity War, maybe. And so they decided. So he told them to just stay in Haiti and keep their kid a secret to Wakanda until he's ready. So yeah, so Nakia is raising T'Challa, their kid. They name him Toussaint, which I thought that was a nice touch because that named after a historic figure with Haiti and stuff like that. So I did like that touch that his name was Toussaint. But actually that was that's his regular name. That's his civilian name. But his real name is T'Challa. They named him after T'Challa. Prince T'Challa. Man, I didn't like that. I didn't like that. I didn't. I was really hoping they wouldn't do something like that. I really didn't. But they did. I understand from a thematic gesture that that was paying tribute to T'Challa as a character and somewhat to Chadwick, but it just didn't feel right at all. It didn't. If this is a one-off thing, fine. It's a nice little gesture, but if it's what I think it's doing, I don't think I'm going to like this at all. So this is their way of doing the uncomfortable compromise for people that wanted them to recast T'Challa. This was their get out of jail free card. That's what it felt like. So instead of them just not killing off the character at all, and just had the movie take place at a different event, like during the 5-year snap, or instead maybe down the line just keep it anonymous, leave it out there in the open of the possibility of T'Challa coming back in another movie. Don't address it like that, and maybe down the line in an Avengers Secret Wars, they could do a multiverse thing and have a variant come in, and we could have another version of T'Challa in the future that way. But no, instead of doing either of those things, they decide to have Nakia have T'Challa's baby, and then have him grow up to become the new T'Challa. Logically and timeline wise, it doesn't make sense, because let's say, for instance, we wait for T'Challa Jr. to become 17 or 18. Let's say that. By the time that happens, everyone else would be old. Nakia will be old, M'Baku will be old, Shuri will be old, a good amount of the Avengers will be old. What kind of logic is that? Like, no, I don't want T'Challa's son to fill the void for his character. That's not the same. Just because you call him T'Challa doesn't mean he's the same character. You know, like they're making it more difficult on themselves by doing that. Like, I really wish they didn't do that. They should have just left it open and not address the recast situation at all. You know, just leave it open. They shouldn't have just. Gosh, man, it just really just bothers me that they do this. You know, I don't want to. I really don't want to turn this into a conspiracy stream, but I'm going to touch on it lightly because I have to get this off my chest. It just baffles my mind that they felt the need to completely get rid of this character because people are so emotional about somebody else coming in and playing the same role. When how many Spider-Mans have we had? How many Supermen have we had? How many Batmen have we had? And I don't want to hear the excuse of, oh, but those are different timelines. Those are different, they're different from each other. They're not all playing the same continuity. It doesn't matter. It doesn't matter. You still have other actors playing the same role. Look, I think moviegoers in general and fans in general have this very dangerous mindset that people get so attached to an actor playing a role that they can't see anyone else playing the character. They can't let anyone else, any other talent out there, play a character because they're so attached to this one person. Like, this is how stories are able to live on. This is how their memories continue, because you have different actors of different generations continuing to play the character, continuing to tell these stories. That's how these iconic characters and movies and stories, that's how they're able to continue to live on in the pop culture and the social culture, because they're continuing to tell these stories in different mediums. That's how Superman and Batman have become the most iconic superheroes ever, because they continue to tell their stories with different actors and different stories, different mediums, whether it's animation or live action and stuff like that. Like, that's how their legacy will continue. And you're pretty much ending the legacy of T'Challa. You're ending his legacy because people are too attached to this actor. Chadwick Boseman's a fantastic actor, and nothing will take away from his performance. And like, nobody will be able to emulate the same performance as him. Never. But that doesn't mean nobody else should try. Have someone else give their own take to the character. Let them make the character their own, but still keeping the essence of what T'Challa was. T'Challa is such an important character in the Marvel Universe, and now he's become a very important character to the Black community. And it is a mistake, probably Marvel's biggest mistake, for them to get rid of him like this. Yes, they can make it up in the future later in this contrived way with T'Challa Jr., but it won't be the same. It won't be the same. It's nuts. It's more than just the mantle. It's more than just somebody coming in and playing Black Panther, putting on the costume of Black Panther. It's more than just the mantle. It's the character. It's his influence on the other characters in Marvel. It's the stories that he is involved in with other characters. It's his impact on his world, on his kingdom, with his people. It's about him as the character. It's not even about having a male. It's not even so much about having a male Black Panther either. It's not even about that either. If T'Challa was a female from the comics with the same amount of development, I will be bitching the same way. It's about the rich stories they could have told. Like, for the longest time, I myself, and I'm sure many people would want to see T'Challa and Storm get married one day. To see him face off against Doctor Doom. For him to even face off with Namor. It should have been T'Challa facing off against Namor in this movie, not Shuri. It doesn't feel the same. As much as they're trying to make it feel as grand as when T'Challa was here, it's not. As much as they're trying, it's not the same. It's not. And now we have another black male lead, a black male superhero just getting written off. Like, what is this going to do for, young black kids, young black boys, having someone to look up to? Like, we don't have enough of that. We don't have enough of of these black male leads in the mainstream, black male comic book leads, in the mainstream. We're starting to get a resurgence of that. But like, Black Panther was a pinnacle because not only was he a superhero, he was a king. He was a king. How often do you see black characters being portrayed in that way? Seriously. Us being seen as royalty. They don't understand how important that is. And in my opinion, if Chadwick didn't pass away, if they didn't decide to write off the character, Black Panther would have been the biggest character in Marvel. He would have been the face, the new face of the MCU. I wholeheartedly believe that. T'Challa, Black Panther, could have been the most iconic Marvel character ever. One of the most iconic superheroes ever if they didn't decide to write his character off like that. I think he would have had the best franchise in the Marvel universe. He would have had the best franchise. He could have had the best superhero franchise, period. He could have been on the same level as Batman and Superman. I mean, they still could fix that. There's still a possibility for that to happen, but like, they damaged the franchise because of this. They damaged it. For certain people, it's a point of no return. They tainted this franchise so much where it's like, I don't think it will be able to recover as well, as much as they want it to. If they did decide to do what they did, this could have been the best franchise Marvel had. Black Panther could have been the face of the MCU. He could have been the face of the Avengers. He could have been one of the most iconic superheroes of all time. But because of this one premature emotional decision, Black Panther won't be looked at the same. Overall, this is not a badly made film. It's not. I feel Ryan Coogler and the actors and the writers and all that, I feel that they are trying to do what they think is best to honor Chadwick Boseman, but at the same time, give you the same amount of quality that they did with the first movie. I felt that. I definitely don't think it was a lack of trying from anybody, but I think it was just a completely misguided decision for them for them not to recast T'Challa and figure out a different way to write around the situation, to give them more time to grieve until they eventually have to recast him. This was a mistake. It was a mistake. Part of me wishes that this movie wasn't even made. I really hate saying that, but I really wish. Part of me wishes that this movie wasn't made. I wish they did push this back, give it more time. Now, Phase 4 is ending on such a depressing note, but like, I guess if we take a step back and look at all the stuff that we got from Phase 4, technically, from a quality standpoint, this is one of the better things in Phase 4. Unfortunately for me to say that. This is probably the second best thing in Phase 4. Because it's, in my opinion, Shang-Chi's the best thing in Phase 4 right now. But, like, at what cost, you know? We lost such a rich character. And now this movie is suffering. There's too much stuff going on. There's too many characters established. There's too much setup for other things that's not necessary to this film. You're having forced emotional creative choices with the characters, with Shuri becoming Black Panther, to Ramonda making these emotional decisions, to Okoye getting fired, to Nakia having a kid and naming after T'Challa. It's too much. It's too much. It's too forced. Stuff setting up for uh the Thunderbolts that we don't need with the one lady, I don't remember her name already. I don't care, but you know who I'm talking about. Just like all that, the male characters aren't getting as much development as the female characters. It doesn't feel equally balanced. Part of me even wishes that they brought Daniel Kaluuya to come back. And yeah, like he wasn't like the best character in the first movie, but he wasn't bad. This could have been a way for them to elevate his character to make him better and have a little bit more of a balance of the male and female characters being good. Part of me wishes they could have pushed it back so they wouldn't have scheduling conflicts with him doing Nope with Jordan Peele. But overall, like, would I watch this movie again? Sure. I don't think it's bad. I probably will watch it a couple more times. I'll watch this again when it comes on Disney Plus. I don't know if I'm going to watch this again in the theater unless my family wants to go see it with me. But overall, like, yeah, I do think the first movie's better. It's such a wasted opportunity with this franchise. I don't know. I don't know what the future of the Black Panther franchise is going to be after this. I don't know what state it's going to be in, but I don't know. We'll just see what happens, I guess. But like, I'm just disappointed. I'm disappointed, guys. I mean, I don't hate this movie, but I don't love it, and I wanted to love this so much. I wanted this to be better than the first film, but it just all stems to them just making a premature emotional decision. They should have thought this through more. They should have thought of other ways to handle this. So overall, I'm gonna give Black Panther: Wakanda Forever maybe a C plus or a B minus. I'm in between those. It hurts me to say that too. Like this should have been one of the best things in the Marvel Cinematic Universe. This should have been the best thing of Phase 4 at the very least, but I just have too much conflicting thoughts about this movie overall. But that's how I feel about Black Panther: Wakanda Forever. What did you guys think about it? Did you guys love it? Did you guys hate it? Did you guys think it was okay? Comment your thoughts down below and let me know. Thank you guys for listening to my rant about this movie. If you guys enjoyed this, please leave a thumbs up. Please leave a like and subscribe to the channel. If you want to be notified of future videos I'll be doing, please don't forget to hit the subscribe button as well. So we're at the end of Phase 4. Phase 4 is done. It is in the books. I guess looking back, a lot of people will probably think that this is the weakest phase that they made so far, and I have to agree. This wasn't Marvel's best footing, and I'm worried about how they're going to move forward. With all these projects coming out, and I'm worried that Kevin Feige is being stretched too thin with all these properties. So I'm just hoping that he gets his act together with this next two phases, especially by the time we get to Fantastic Four and the Avengers movies and X-Men. I just hope they get everything together with the shows and the movies. But we'll see what happens. But before we head into Phase 5 with Ant-Man and the Wasp: Quantumania that comes out next year in February, I think February, right? Yeah. Before the year is over, the next thing I will be talking about is the Guardians of the Galaxy Holiday Special. I am looking forward to that. I think it'll be a fun time. But yeah, tune in for that when it comes out. But yeah, that's all I have for you guys. And I will see you guys in the next video, live stream, or podcast. I'll talk to you guys later. Wakanda forever. Or at least we hope so.